Okay, the anonymous transit concept presented by Sven Hackman. There you go. It's all yours.
Madam Chair, thanks for the opportunity to present to you and board members. My name is Sven Hackman. I represent Next Future Transportation, an innovative transportation and mobility startup based here in California and founded in Italy. So 2 areas of operation. The company is it was formed in 2015 in Italy. Originally started as a university thesis around the University of Padua in Italy. So one of the co-founders is a quantum physicist and an industrial designer who, with his partner and the current CEO who resides in Silicon Valley, were thinking through the challenges of traffic as they exist today around the world. And clearly congestion in some communities more than others is a growing challenge, and pollution, of course, as well. But with that, there's some other challenges that this group started thinking through, and what was a thesis and an idea became a startup and is quickly developing into an exciting new business. So today I want to present to you just a different way of looking at solutions to potentially problems that you face, or you in Kern could also see as opportunities as you connect your communities and potentially even stimulate economic development. Maybe just to my background, I have an affinity in working with state and local government. At one point, I helped a multinational start the U.S. Cities program when cities was a new buzzword, and obviously now is part of the language of many companies. But in that process, worked with several organizations like the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the National League of Cities, and NACO to discuss solutions. So the mission of Next is, again, to create solutions to problems that can be scalable. And so Next has created a modular system, pods that are fully and can be fully autonomous, that can basically connect and disconnect in full motion when they find each other, and while in full motion, shift both passengers and goods depending on their final destination. So if you think about it, freeways today are congested in most cases, oftentimes because individuals can't carpool because they come from different locations and are headed potentially to certain areas, but it's very difficult really to put carpooling in motion and at scale. And so this approach that was created addresses both passengers and goods movement. So once the entrepreneur moved here from Italy to California, there was immediate interest by the press that embraced the idea and said, well, how can you make this happen? And jumping ahead a little bit, the challenge is not so much on the technology, as we'll demonstrate, but is largely a challenge that is tied to legislation and really communities that embrace it, where community can serve as a living lab for transportation innovation, and that is what we seek. So moving ahead. So at the present moment, the scenarios that we have bus companies, and that's really the benchmark for us. So, buses at peak times, can move considerable amount of people. At the same time, there's been no innovation around the bus industry. So buses generally are stuck in that routes exist in most cases. And, you may have demand, and when you have demand, you can accommodate it, but oftentimes you have empty routes, and that's not profitable. At the same time, you have, the emergence of self-driving vehicles. All of us obviously read about it on a daily basis, and the anticipation, but also changing, user or consumer community needs. So how do you respond to that? And frankly, today, there are 4 modalities, 4 solutions. There's the bus, the taxi, maybe to the family, the RV or motorhome, and for goods movement, the truck. So back to what these two entrepreneurs thought through. Well, what if one could combine, all of those and create this pod that is scalable, that can accommodate maybe only 10 people, and at peak times or based on need or demand can cluster together to basically create what looks like a bus. And that's exactly what they created, initially as a concept, but very quickly also as a business model that goes beyond, again, people and goods transportation. So to the bottom right, you see some future scenarios. I'll detail them later. And they are certainly based on ideas, but interestingly enough, now companies coming to us saying, would you like to collaborate? I know that your local colleges here in Bakersfield are looking at automation, teaching robotics and automated warehouses. So there's one company in particular that came to us and said, we will fund and we'll co-innovate around fully automated warehouses, loading of goods into the pods, shifting goods autonomously within the pods, and then unloading them, again, based on the final destination. All interesting. We know we'll get there, but right now it's all about building the platform that we are looking to deliver in a short time. So let me show you, just briefly, a video that describes or visualizes what it is that we're creating. So if you're in any one of your rural communities, you can hail the ride, very much like an Uber, a Lyft, or some other ride-hailing solution. You will then be met by one of these autonomous or even driven solutions, and depending on where you're headed, they will then find each other, a door will open, and depending on your final destination, you will sit accordingly. Once at the desk, so that shows you how the algorithm allows you to shift the traveler. So once you arrive, you will be appropriately distributed based on what the algorithm understood. You'll see here, and we just visualized that there are certain services. So just imagine, if you were headed from here to LA, there could be a pod that is like a Kinko's. There could be a pod that is like a Starbucks, or some other solution. We're talking to a healthcare provider that is talking about making healthcare available in that scenario. So from a business model perspective, it's always with the customer and communities in mind. It's not just, to create a business as sort of the next fad, but really how do you serve a community? And it's definitely tied to, bringing down the cost of unprofitable modalities that haven't been innovated, and really understanding how you can respond to demand and innovate around that. It's about fleet optimization and working again with partners that are active today, other partners that are emerging like the Lyfts and the Uber. We, by the way, have just formed a partnership with the Middle East's biggest ride-hailing company, Kern. They're the first unicorn down there, and we're anticipating, a larger order from them shortly. And then opportunities to serve the community with commercial services. Without having the opportunity to go into, all the models today, and I did speak to some of the GET members, we certainly are prepared to, go much deeper and talk about specific scenarios that apply to communities and marketplaces as they present themselves. From a development perspective, the company is in the process of building and delivering the first prototypes, actually to Dubai, received funding from the Dubai government. There you have an environment where, I think unlike the US or Europe, legislation is probably not as, I would say, developed around certain topics. And so our objective there is to deploy a first fleet in a living lab controlled environment. That will happen at the end of this year. and then working with this ride hailer to provide larger fleets. And that fleet initially will be with drivers, allowing, first of all, existing contracts and the workforce to remain in place, and then augmenting some of the requirements and some of the existing infrastructure with self-driving vehicles. Again, focus on both goods movement and mass transportation in a new and unique way. The one comment that I wanted to make is that the production or the manufacturing of fleets we intend to do locally. So, with advanced manufacturing, 3D printing, you can really allow local communities to embrace this as a catalyst, and then beyond transportation, use those skill sets and maybe those facilities to attract other industries, but also to transfer skills and serve the community and the market as needed. So with that, I know it's a rather fast presentation, really focused on the technology. We have a video that we launched today, which shows actually the prototype. So the actual system in Italy, driving. It can turn 360. It can avoid obstacles that present themselves. And unlike some of the shuttle companies that are operating in secure, controlled environments at low speeds, we'll be demonstrating 50 miles an hour, and again in the modular environment. Yeah, if there are any questions or if I can address any specific areas relating to Next, I'm more than happy to.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where are you currently testing these prototypes?
In Padua, Italy. So,
that's right.
Yeah, in Padua, Italy, and by the end of the year in Dubai.
Okay, now I heard the Dubai bar. How are they powered?
Electric, so it's an electric vehicle, about 100-mile range. At the same time, the range is actually not going to be as crucial as it is on an electric vehicle, because you can actually imagine one of those pods or several pods being recharging pods. So the idea here is that the pods or the vehicles are in constant motion, and thereby, you really have much more efficiency.
What types of road surfaces have they been tested on?
None yet. And
Okay.
that's so we're actually raising a first round of financing. Much of that will be to actually expand the patent portfolio. We have been granted patents, and to work with those types of agencies to get road tested, crash tested, and approved.
We have a variety of road surfaces in California City, from off-road to, and we have people that live in those communities, so we'll help you anywhere we can. I assume they're powered locationally by GPS?
They are,
satellite?
yes, they are. So we've actually demonstrated that as well, and that's this video that I'm happy to share after this presentation. And as much as we've demonstrated that, I think we're all following the amazing developments really that are happening, especially here in this state. There's a lot of money being poured into it with tremendous academic support. So ultimately, it's about working with the best in breed companies to harness that technology and not try to develop everything on our own.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions? Public? Okay.
That is both the concept and what we are showing right now as an actual prototype as well. So this is exactly what the vehicle will look like. Obviously, road testing and the security that comes with it will I'm sure necessitate some changes. But this is exactly what it looks like today, and you can see online as well.
Yeah, like little wheels underneath the frame.
Yeah, little wheels underneath the frame, and all four wheels are self-controlled. So imagine, when a fire truck goes around the curb, if you have 10 of those vehicles going around a curve, all of them are controlled by an algorithm independently, and that is part of the IP.
And the speed bumps, no problem.
Those are some of the tests where we're actually, undergoing right now: speed bumps, weather conditions, snow, and so on.
have a question on have there been any crash tests performed on these pods?
No, actually, so our first two pods are the ones that we're building and developing right now for Dubai.
Okay.
And what we are demonstrating in this video that I've referenced tonight is collision avoidance. So you have the pod driving and someone just stepping in front of it and it stops. But crash testing is something that obviously government agencies look at very carefully, and that's a whole development cycle that will govern sort of the next development stages for us.
And one last question: is there solar technology involved with these pods?
Yeah,
You
so
mentioned that? Okay.
absolutely. The rooftop has solar, and depending on the region, Bakersfield or the Middle East, we'll have air conditioning. You can really make it as fancy or as developed as you want, or it can be bare bones, depending on what your needs are. And so when we're asked, what will the price point be, it depends. It depends on the needs, but ultimately it will be less expensive. So if a pod holds 10 passengers, and you compare it with one of the, say, electric buses, which are about $800,000, less expensive than those, and probably more along the price point of, the advanced Chinese electric buses that you see.
Okay, thank you.
Robert, did you have a question?
Oh, just the weight of these vehicles. That's kind of one of the critical crash issues. And they look like they might be a little top heavy. What's the weight and distribution?
Yeah, we've actually made quite a bit of progress there and have all sorts of studies that we've simulated in software. So that's actually not a real concern at this point, at least. It's pretty well balanced. I think the question becomes, once we start loading in goods and what types of goods, how do we balance the system? How do we get up steep inclines? That becomes a bigger issue. But as it presents itself today, especially as it relates to passengers, not a concern that stands out that we're wrestling with.
Well, thank you.
What's the speed on these? 35 miles an hour? Or?
Yeah, so again, for Dubai, we're targeting 50 miles an hour, specifically getting out of these test environments where shuttles are doing 20 miles. And we're tracking along 50 miles, but ultimately we would be looking at road speeds, commercial road speeds, to be able to go head to head with the other modalities. And talking about other modalities, this is also about integrating. So we're not sending a message that we're disrupting modalities, but really integrating with other modalities and embracing operators and those that have been in the business and serve communities.
Are you done? All right. Thank you.
Again, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Bring this meeting to order, please. Please stand for the flag salute. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Present.
Here.
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 Kraut? Yes. Pryor?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Reichman?
Here.
Couch? Scribner? Ramirez?
Here.
Hara? Kieran?
Thank you. Item number 3, public comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the committee on any matter not on this agenda but under the jurisdiction of the committee. Committee members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed.
They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the committee at a later meeting. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes with the authority of the chair to extend the time limit as deemed appropriate for conducting the meeting. Please state your name and address for the record prior to making a presentation. Do we have any public comments?
Good evening, Council. My name is Kevin Barnes. I'm the Solid Waste Director for the City of Bakersfield. Office. Oh, yeah, all right. How we doing there? Okay, how we doing there? I'm sorry, Kevin Barnes, the Solid Waste Director for the City of Bakersfield. Address 16150 Match Point Court, 93306. Just wanted to give a quick word of thank you and support for the agenda item tonight for the call box funding being diverted to litter control. It's a fantastic program. I think most people in the program or the room know. We're greatly encouraged by that. There are 3 crews out there on the mainline freeways, and then there's a 4th crew now that's doing other locations. And so we're always garnering support for that through additional corporate and private donations. So the money spent here is leading to bigger and better things in the community. So we just appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by KernCOG staff and will be approved by one motion if no member of the committee or public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in the listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the committee concerning the item before action is taken. We have items A through K.
Madam Chair, may I please request to remove item 4K for discussion?
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We have a motion.
Motion to approve with K removed.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Corolla,
Yes.
Smith, Gonzalez,
Aye.
Wood,
All except for the approval of the minutes. I have to abstain from that piece because I wasn't present.
Pasquale,
Yes.
Bach, Cantu, Bauer,
Aye.
Kraut. Yes. Fryer,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Wegman,
Yes.
Couch, Scrivener, Ramirez, Farah, Kern.
Okay. Item K. Mr. Grollo.
Please share the staff presentation first.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair and committee members. This item is a request for authorization for the Chair to sign a comment letter on the SB 375 target setting for greenhouse gases, and that letter being signed is attached. We're also encouraging stakeholders to provide comment letters to the Air Resources Board as well. The item has been reviewed by the Regional Planning Advisory Committee. Some of their comments have all been incorporated into this draft letter. Just to let you know, in general terms, under SB 375, the Air Resources Board is required to set a target for greenhouse gas emissions reductions from passenger vehicle travel. And the way those are achieved is in planning for mobile source reductions that would come from your transportation system,
and primarily through land use changes and cleaner fleets. And the target that the Air Resources Board is proposing is 2 percentage points higher than what your board approved 2 months ago and submitted to the Air Resources Board. And so this letter is requesting that they set that target back at 13% for 2035, not 15%, which is what the staff report from the Air Resources Board is proposing. The Air Resources Board will be acting on this at their October board meeting, so we have time to provide comment. They're requesting no comments on this preliminary staff report by July 28th, and that's why we're asking for a signature with chair's approval at this time, or with the chair's signature at this time.
Okay, any comments from the board? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. I just want to, first of all, thank you for the presentation, and just say that from the city of Arvin, we are embracing much more environmentally friendly and transit-oriented development. And at our last council meeting, we approved a resolution in support of the Paris Climate Agreement, which also supports the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. We adopted a climate action plan in 2013, and we think that the much more ambitious 15% reduction is something that would be beneficial to the city of Arvin. We see it as setting an ambitious goal, giving the market and the free enterprise and the free market the ability to get us there and provide much more equitable and equitable economic development and help improve prosperity in the city of Arvin. And since we're a small community, we want to continue providing a much more transit-oriented development and with walkability and bikeability. And that's what our city council has adopted in our strategic plan. And just stating my opposition to this letter, and we'll be sending a letter, a comment letter to the Air Resources Board advocating for a more ambitious target at 15%. Just wanted to pull it off to discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Got your second? Roll call vote.
Corolla,
No.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Aye.
Pascual,
Aye.
Mauer,
Aye.
Crouch,
Yes.
Schreier,
Big yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Wegman,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Okay, moving right along. Item number 5, public hearing, unmet transit needs in Kern County. Mr. Snoddy.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. First of all, before I get into my staff report, I'd like to thank all of our member agencies for welcoming me every time I go out for these public hearings in your communities. I got to everyone except Maricopa, Tehachapi, and Wasco. I had conflicting meetings at other places, but I'll try to make you guys next year. And it's always a pleasure to go out in the community. Usually I only get out there one time a year, and it's nice to see the improvements in each community that I didn't see last time I was out there. So I commend you with the progress you make in each one of your cities. Okay, tonight, the California Public Utilities Code Section 99401.5 requires that Kern Council governments annually identify any unmet transit needs and those that are reasonable to meet. KernCOG will conduct a public hearing on July 20th, that's tonight, prior to making a final determination. Prior to making any allocation from Transportation Development Act TDA funds to uses other than public transportation or pedestrian bikeway facilities, KernCOG is legally required to determine whether unmet transit needs have been identified within its jurisdiction. Through newspaper advertisements, members of the public were requested to provide their input. Public input was also obtained through public hearings held in the cities, rural communities of Kern, and Golden Empire Transit. KernCOG's Social Services Transportation Advisory Committee, the SSTAC, reviewed the results of these public hearings. And as a response to our newspaper ad this year, we had 4 responses, and KernCOG staff recognized all 4 of them and forwarded them on to Golden Empire Transit for analysis and also to Kern Transit, and so far that although they were recommendations to improve operations, they were not unmet transit needs. They were just recommendations to change and improve service. GET held its unmet transit needs public hearing on March 21st, 2017. The GET board found that there are no unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet. Kern Transit will hold its unmet transit needs hearing in August and report its finding to the KernCOG staff. City-operated transit systems in Kern County held unmet transit needs public hearings between February and July 2017. None of these cities reported unmet transit needs that were reasonable to meet. At its July 7, 2017 meeting, the Social Services Transportation Advisory Committee reviewed a countywide analysis of unmet transit needs needed provided by KernCOG staff and determined that there are no unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet within Kern County, conditioned upon the County of Kern reporting the same finding. Tonight is the night for KernCOG to hold its unmet transit needs hearing, and I turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I will open this public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public? Do we have any comments from the board? Seeing none, I will close this public hearing.
And upon those results, staff recommends that you find that there are no unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Motion on staff's recommendation.
Sorry, jumping the gun.
I'll second.
Corolla,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Wood,
Yes.
Pascual,
Yes.
Mauer,
Yes.
Kraut. Yes. Fryer,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Wegman,
Yes,
Ramirez.
Yes.
thank you. Item number 7, Caltrans report. Mr. Ramirez.
Yes. Get that a little closer. Madam Chairperson, we have a project in, it's between Ells Hill Road and Tutman Road. It's the Cherry Avenue truck climbing lanes that are going to be constructed. It's in construction right now, and there's ADA ramps that are being constructed in Shafter and Wasco within that area, within those 2 post miles from North Shafter to, from North Wasco down to South Shafter, and that's in construction. And we also have ADA compliance upgrades on State Route 99 in Kern County at Kern Avenue. It's the pedestrian overcrossing, and that's a project initiation document right now in that stage. There's a Delano Roundabout in construction. Actually, it's the construction began in July 17th, 2017. It's at on Kern 155 Browning Road intersection, and it will be closed for 45 working days. And the project will be completed at the end of November of this year. The Famoso Bridge at State Route 46 and 99. There's going to be a bridge replacement, and that's in construction. And the utility work is currently ongoing. There's the Kern County seismic restoration at State Route 99 and Airport Drive. That's in construction. And there's a pavement rehabilitation on State Route 99 near the city of Bakersfield, north of Herring Road to Pacheco Road. And the project will be advertised July the 31st, 2017. State Route 46, the conventional highway segment 4A, from Lost Hills Road to I-5. The project was voted on at the CTC meeting in June, and is scheduled for advertisement early August. And also we finalized our active transportation. It's called Towards an Active California, the state bicycle and pedestrian plan. This is the first one ever that we've had. You have other states like Oregon, Arizona, Washington that have a bicycle plan or a bicycle pedestrian plan. We've never had one. I actually had the privilege to work on this, and my picture's in there, so there's proof. So this is finalized. It's on the internet. You can look at it. You can just Google Towards an Active California, or just Google Bike Ped Plan California, and you can check it out. And we're happy to have that out. We worked on it for about a year and a half, so we're excited about it being out for the public. And you can use this as another tool for active transportation. And that's my report.
Thank you. Executive Director's report.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and board members. Pedro mentioned, and one of the items on consent was State Route 46. I want to take just a few minutes to thank everyone that was involved with that project. As was mentioned in the information item on the agenda, we were able to cobble together $26 million in a little over 2 weeks. And when I say we, it was a group effort. And we had to agree to spend $3.5 million in the future, but that's a pretty good trade, $3.5 million for 26. So I want to try to thank as many people as I can remember. Cheryl Wegman from Wasco worked with her civilian employer at the prison because Route 46 is an important route to Wasco. Supervisor Couch brought in Supervisor Leticia Perez, and the three of us worked with supervisors in other counties to make this deal come to fruition. The wonderful company came to the table, specifically Melissa Poole activated her lobbyists. Former Senator Dean Flores was involved. Former Congressman Bill Thomas was involved, and so was Rudy Salas. Our staff, specifically Joe, Rob Ball, and myself, were on the phone constantly for about 2 or 3 days trying to make this deal come to fruition. COG staff, CTC staff, and Caltrans staff all contributed to ultimately giving us $26 million from other projects throughout the state to finish an important corridor in Kern County. And they recognized that a project in and around Lost Hills isn't just important to the people in Kern County, but it's important to the people of the entire state. And that's why we collectively, this whole group, were able to convince literally dozens of people and the California Transportation Commission to give us those $26 million. And finally, on this item, I just want to remind everyone that having a project that is ready to go to construction only good things can happen to you, and that's the position we were in. We had a project that was ready to go at the end of June to work on Route 46. We'd been working on that project for over 10 years. We spent a lot of local and state money to get that project ready to go. But whenever you can get a project ready to go, like I've told all of your staffs in the past, only good things can happen, and this is a great example. I have just a couple more items, Madam Chair, but thank you to you personally for your help.
Well, I don't think you took enough credit for that, because I know you had a lot to do with this by thinking out of the box. So I want to thank you for all your hard work and your creativity to make it work. Okay?
It's my pleasure.
I had a question.
Oh, sure. I didn't think there was questions.
This COG had to come to grips with a similar situation on the reverse side many years ago for the 395-14 corridor. And we had to sit here with folks from the west side of the valley, Bakersfield and East Kern, and contribute funds, our local dollars that could have been used here in this area to a project over there. But we partnered with Southern California, San Bernardino COG, and I think it was Inyo County, Mono counties. All those COGs, we all contributed then which puts you in very good light down the road. Sometimes it's 10 years away. When you partner, then you get a reward sometimes later. It sometimes seems forever. But it does stay in the memory of the people at the commission, California Transportation Commission. So when you all work together, you share now a little, and you get some back later, and in the future we may be asked to contribute again. But when you go to a county like Stanislaus, how did they come? Were these folks, were their projects they weren't quite ready, and they had money on the table that was going to go away, and we were able to come up with it because of the project, or did they lose the funding, or it's just postponed for them?
So part of SB1, that's the bill that passed a couple of months ago, there was 2 or 3 lines in SB1 that said the Traffic Congestion Relief Program. If those of you who've been around, and you have, Councilman Smith, for more than 10 years, remember that's the program that was started under Gray Davis, and in part it funded Route 46. So it's a program that has been around for a very long time. SB1 terminated that program effective July 1st. So anyone who did not have projects that were ready to go in June, and we had one that was ready to go, would lose their money effective July 1st. So several counties that are detailed in your staff report were faced with lose it or give it to a county that can use it. Some of them, many of them, their initial response was, no, why should we give it to you? We'd rather just lose it and let it go back into the bigger pool. So it took a lot of convincing why it was a good project, why it would be in their best interest to invest in a project in Kern County. So they were going to lose their money if they did not give it to us. And in some cases, it's probably difficult for me to explain why it's in someone's best interest in San Diego to invest in Route 46. But ultimately, we were successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple more items, Madam Chair and board members. So just a quick update on Senate Bill 1. I just touched on one provision of that. But in your folders tonight is a summary of the SB1 transportation funding to be made available to your cities and the county over the next 10 years. The funds are generated through payback of past loans. That's a big part of SB1. It's paying back old loans made to the state general fund from the state highway account. There's also a 12 cents per gallon gas tax and a $100 average DMV increase depending on the value of your car. The gas tax will be phased in at 4 cents per gallon every 3 months beginning this November. Kern County is anticipated to receive over $400 million in the next 10 years, primarily for road maintenance and transit. The summary page on your attachment includes a breakout by local jurisdiction. To be eligible for the new local funding, jurisdictions are required to submit road improvements to the state and report annually on the condition of their roads. And all of your staffs have been contacted, and this information has already been requested. If you wouldn't mind just checking in with them. Once your jurisdiction's roads are at a pavement condition index of 80 out of 100, and that will take some time. It will take literally years for most of us to get there, if we get there at all. The funds may be used for other transportation priorities. So the first priority is going to be improve your roads. We estimate on average the funding is only about 40% of what is needed to catch up on the road maintenance backlog in the next 10 years, depending on the conditions of the roads in each of your jurisdictions. On two more quick items. Caltrans just announced that the cities of Arvin, Delano, Wasco, and the transit operator in Bakersfield, Golden Empire Transit District, and Kern Transit were awarded low carbon transit operations program grants for 2016-17. Two particular projects I'd like to bring to your attention. They address increase of public transit to low-income communities. Arvin will use almost $10,000 to provide residents 4 to 10 free transit days to encourage new riders in the community. And Kern Transit is adding $62,000 of operations funding to provide service to residents of Boron that allows a connection to a food distribution program site. Congratulations to all the operators. And the final item on this agenda, Madam Chair, is something that applies to all of the cities and the county. CMAQ and RSTP. CMAQ is the Congestion Management Program. RSTP is the federal money you use to maintain and rehabilitate your roads. We currently have a call for projects. The deadline is August 31st. And as you remember, most of you from last year, the call for projects requires a resolution by your council or a resolution by the Board of Supervisors listing out the projects you will be doing and your commitment to come up with the local match. So if you don't see a resolution come before you in the next 3, 4, or 5 weeks, you should be sending up a red flag. That concludes my report, Madam Chairman, subject to any of your questions.
Any questions for the director? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next Kern Council of Governments agenda. Roll call stays the same, correct? Oh, where'd you come from? You snuck in. Wow, you're quiet. Okay. Roll call with an addition of Zach Scribner. Okay.
Next month, or next time, I won't be here.
Okay, great. Public comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the council on any matter not on this agenda but under the jurisdiction of the council. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, let's go on to item 3, consent agenda. The consent agenda, all items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by KernCOG staff and will be approved by one motion if no member of the council or public wishes to comment on any questions. We have items A through F. We have a motion?
Consent?
I'll second.
Roll call vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, except for item A. I have to abstain. I wasn't present.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Moving down to item number 7, Kern Motorist Aid Authority. Ms. Napier.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board. In May of 2015, staff worked with Caltrans District 6 to develop a plan to remove call boxes in the Metro Bakersfield area. Since that time, a number of call boxes along construction routes have also been removed and not replaced. KMAA's call box network today has been reduced by 112 call boxes to 462 units, which is a 19.5% reduction in the network. In May 2016, KMAA entered into an agreement with Case Systems to upgrade the call box system from 2G voice to 3G voice and 4G data. The upgrade of the system is complete. In May 2017, the board requested staff review call box usage and make recommendations for removing call boxes that generate few calls. Using usage reports from 2015 and 2016, staff focused on 2 specific routes: Interstate 5 from the junction of State Route 99 and I-5 south to the county line or the Grapevine area, and State Route 178 from the Bakersfield city limit east to Lake Isabella, or the Kern River Canyon. Staff collaborated with Case Systems, who is the maintenance provider, to discuss the best way to determine the best plan of action. Case Systems reviewed the callbox usage reports for 3 years from 2014-15 to 16-17. While the callbox usage has decreased over the years, Case found that in the 2016-17, the number of callboxes used during that calendar year was 304 out of 462. The percentage of call boxes used over a 3-year period is as follows. In 16-17, 64% of the call boxes were used. 15-16, 72% of the call boxes were used. And in 14-15, 70% of the call boxes were used. Case made the following recommendation. Removing 40% of the system is feasible without affecting current motorist usage. Specific removals will require more detailed analysis, and a 40% reduction would yield $7,400 per month savings, or approximately $90,000 per year. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Becky. Becky has done a great job with this program over the past several years. I have a few more points I'd like to add to what Becky has told you. Our contractor has told us that removing 40% of the system is feasible, but I need to remind everyone that just because they think it's feasible doesn't mean we can do it. As a reminder, we have to check with Caltrans and CHP, and the idea of just removing 40% of the system, in my experience, may be a challenge to get that past both Caltrans and CHP. And as a reminder of how we got here, and I know you've all reviewed the KMAA budgets over the last several years. For the past 3 years, we've been spending between $300,000 and $400,000 more than we take in. We've been using our reserves to pay for Kern 511, the call box system, and the litter pickup. That's not sustainable in the long term. We cannot continue to spend $300,000 or $400,000 more than we take in. The proposal that Case proposed would only save us $90,000 a year. You can do the math. That's not enough to get us past our structural deficit. We also have to, if this board chooses to keep the call boxes, we also have to think about potential costs in the future, which a smaller system may be subject to ADA upgrades in the future. If you travel the state like I do, I've seen Los Angeles had to upgrade to actual keyboards on some of their call boxes, if not all of them. I know many of our call boxes also need new signs. So with all that said, I would recommend that you choose the option to completely remove the system. Subject to your questions that Becky and I can answer, that's our report, Madam Chair.
All right. Any comments from the board?
Motion on Aaron's recommendation.
I'll second.
I only have a question. We talk about using the funds for litter removal, but if it's more important that we have call boxes in some of these areas, should you reduce the litter project?
That certainly is an option, but I believe what I've heard from this board is that they are very happy with the litter program, and I think there are some people that may want to speak on this item that would love to have more money to expand the litter pickup program. But you are right, Mayor Prout. We could keep the call boxes and do away with the litter pickup.
And most of us personally have cell phones or have ways to get help if we needed it. But when you still have these calls coming in, are they considered urgent or emergency or in any way that maybe we're going to reduce? I mean, I'm only trying to be fair and open about it, because litter is something that we should all be taking care of without the project. I mean, I understand what the project has done, and I appreciate that. I like that. But I'm still questioning whether it's the right thing to remove from some of these areas.
I'd like to add that I understand what you're saying. However, the stretch of 58, for example, in the East Kern to this region is so heavily trafficked that I don't know if, especially with commercial tractor trailer traffic all hours of the day or night, and it's growing in numbers.
Yes.
For us, I don't see the need anymore, even if you don't have a cell phone, because someone's going to be there very, very shortly. Whereas we've had concerns in the past because of spotty cell service. Well, that's not really an issue anymore because of the volume of traffic in our region. So for us, if they were gone tomorrow, we would not even miss them. But there may be other areas that have problems. But for me, I'm happy to see them go. Use the money in another way.
If I can add one thing, Madam Chair, we removed over 100 boxes in the past several years, and I'm not aware of any complaints about the removals that we've already made.
Okay, the only other thing I could say is that the funds were earmarked for call boxes, and I know I've had people say to me, well, then we'll get our money back, or we won't have to pay it. I mean, that's the other thing that could be a plus, is if we really wanted to do that. You know, I'm only raising the question because I think it should be.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, in the past we had decided to keep some of the call boxes in on roadways that we knew were more rural, so we eliminated the metro. But what the data that we saw the last time we brought this up, the cell coverage is virtually complete over all the roadways. Isn't that the case, Aaron?
So I believe we have almost 500 boxes, 462 boxes right now. 461 of those boxes are cell phone based.
Yeah.
One of those boxes in the Kern River Canyon is hardwired. So yes, Supervisor Scribner, the cell phone service in the county has expanded exponentially in the last decade.
Yeah, I feel like the call box system, it's ran its useful life, and I think it's time for us to try to allocate those dollars in ways that are more effective. So
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Does the ultimate elimination of all boxes and someone in Sacramento saying, oh, they're not using it for that anymore, they're using it for litter, at one point do they say you can't have that money for litter now because you don't even have a system? Or what threshold are you allowed to continue?
There is no requirement of a motorist aid authority to have call boxes anymore. There was. The law has changed. The law now gives us many options, including the debris and obstruction removal, including changeable message signs, including Kern 511. So the answer to your question, Councilmember Smith, is no. If we remove all the call boxes, we are still fully in compliance with the motorist aid law.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
has any other county completely removed all their call boxes in the state?
There's been many counties that have made dramatic removals. I can check for you, Mayor Garola, whether there are counties that have removed them all. I do know that there are certainly counties that do not have call boxes, that they never put them in the first place. Fresno is a good example.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
In our bicycle guide, in our Caltrans District 6 bicycle guide, Kern by far has the most call boxes of any county. I haven't found too many other call boxes within the other counties. So,
may I add something? Thank you, Pedro. I have talked with Caltrans District Director and Head of Maintenance and Head of Planning, and they completely support the idea of removing the call boxes and continuing the litter pickup program, which has been very successful. And Caltrans, even though they're not, the maintenance director is not here, he doesn't come often, but he really, really appreciates the money that this board puts towards litter pickup. And Madam Chair, I believe there is a member of the public that does want to speak on this item.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the format? I need Lewis Gill and my address.
Name and address for the record.
Lewis Gill, 7408 Dos Rios Way. That's in the 09. Council members, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Lewis Gill. I'm the Executive Director of the Bakersfield Homeless Center. We have been very fortunate that you guys invested into something different. Because you were willing to do something a little bit different, you changed and improved our community, and you've improved lives. I have individuals that are a part of our work crews that have typically been looking for work for more than 18 months. And now we have 4 crews. We have moms in the morning putting their kids into our child care, kissing them goodbye, and going to work. It's a different life for our folks coming through our shelter. We have removed tons of trash, made the freeways safer. We have a very solid partnership with the city of Bakersfield and are incredibly grateful that you guys were willing to just look at something a little bit differently. And today you have the opportunity to do just a little bit more. You can change lives further. I can tell you just quickly, we have one woman that came in that is now a full-time employee out at the Animal Care Center. We have another young man that literally came in with the ankle monitor that has done so well that is now running all of our crews. We have another young woman that, truth is, she was a complete mess when I met her. She's done so well. She now works for Hall Ambulance and is aspiring to be an EMT. None of that would have happened without the initial investment. And I just want to remind you what our freeways looked like before we began the work. There was no solution. And now we have one, and we can go one more step. And I strongly encourage you to do that.
Thank you. I know I've always been a proponent for the call boxes. Yeah, and because there are people who don't have cell phones, and that's always been a concern of mine. But with the homeless collaborative that we've done with the garbage pickup has been an enormous good thing for the county. So, I mean, what do? It's 50-50. But I actually think that the homeless project, giving people jobs and some self-worth, and they are cleaning up our roads and highways and some of our communities. I have to go, my opinion, with taking the call boxes out. So we have a motion and a second. We have another question.
I was have a question, more of a comment. You know, I'd say like 8 years ago, I think it probably was an issue. But since all these Obama phones out there, there's plenty of them out there, phones available. In fact, one guy has 4 of them with a cell to me. I didn't want to get involved with that one, but there's plenty of phones there, so that kind of solved the problem.
Yeah.
Of not having cell phones.
Times have changed.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. So we
Call
have
the question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
We had
That
a
was
motion,
it?
I believe, a second.
I think it was on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a motion and we have a second. So this is a voice vote, correct? Can you do roll call? Okay.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Thank you. Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, Becky, can you stay up here? I think I've told some of you, and many of you know that Robert is leaving tomorrow, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I haven't told all of you that Becky has been selected to take Robert's place and will be the new Deputy Director at KernCOG for Administration. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Becky.
Just a few quick items, Madam Chair. We'll be dark in August. The Valley Voice trip to Washington, D.C. is September 8th and 9th. KernCOG will be attending the Frazier Park Fiesta Days, promoting the RTP on August 5th. KernCOG will be attending the National Drive Electric Week on September 16th. KernCOG will be attending the Kern County Fair from the 20th of September to October 1st, and this year we are partnering with Kern Transit, Golden Empire Transit, and several other agencies, so you will see employees from some of our other agencies in those booths also. In your folder tonight, you have the KernCOG Quarterly, a copy of the presentation we received during the workshop, a copy of the letter that was signed, a draft letter, I'm sorry, by the Valley COG directors, regarding the SB 375 issue that we talked about earlier. Timeline covering the next several months. Outreach efforts. Oh, and I almost forgot. Congratulations, Mayor Wegman. This is in the outreach. Was appointed by the governor to be on a statewide board. Congratulations, Mayor Wegman.
Yes, thank you, thank you. More work, more meetings. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, you can do
Take your hammer.
Mine too.
The schedule of cash disbursements, the SB1 reference that I referenced earlier, an article by the Bakersfield city manager talking about all the trip projects, and another article from the Bakersfield Californian about the Thomas Roads Improvement Program. Madam Chair, I'd like to publicly thank, in advance of your comments, both Robert Phipps and Lori Collins for their service. Both of them have been essential to the success of this organization, and you will both be missed. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss Phipps. He's my buddy. We travel everywhere together, and he's my mentor. He's keeps me in check. Brings me back down when I have to be. Anyway, I'm gonna miss you, Robert. And congratulations, Becky. And we have a new secretary too, right?
Oh, yes, I apologize. Tammy Jones will be replacing Lori. Lori's last day will be August 18th, and Lori's on vacation right now, so this was Tammy's first run. I think she did a great job,
Yes,
and
she did.
she will do a great job in the future. Welcome,
Yes.
Tammy. And Tammy has already been here for almost 8 years.
Oh, wow. And she's not new. No. But she does need a microphone. Okay? Okay. All right, we have some awards to give away. Or does anybody have any comments for Robert?
Yes, ma'am, if you don't mind. Robert, we got to talk a few days ago, and my very first experience with Robert is that he drove all the way to California City, and that's before I made trips to Bakersfield, and when they were like long ways away. Now I feel like I'm on autopilot coming here, but he came all the way out to California City and walked me through every single program KernCOG's involved with. And he made sure that I could ask any question and what have you. So I felt like even though there's no way out of that first meeting when you're first on these boards you'll ever understand all these things, it was the best foundation that I ever had. And then from that point forward, I hope I don't get misty, but I just might. Whenever we would go anywhere, whether it's KernCOG or any other place or DC or something, he was right there to bring me up to speed or to help me understand something that maybe I hadn't been exposed to. Yep. So I am ever grateful for the type of person that you are, and I'm so sorry. I'm happy for you, but please understand that I am so sorry that the depth of you is going somewhere else, and they are so lucky. And if they don't like you or anything, we could bring you back some way. Huh? Anyway, so I want to say personally thank you very much, and welcome. And you're going to do a fabulous job, and you're going to be the new voice for the regional awards, right? No pressure there, and welcome aboard too. Thank you. You did a wonderful job tonight. Thanks.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
In addition to what Mayor Woods said, with Roberts, his enthusiasm, I've seen him out in Rosamond and the far reaches of the county. Sometimes you don't have a lot of people at some of those outreach meetings, but it doesn't stop you from engaging everybody and being enthusiastic and caring about the mission of COG, and your writing skills, your research that you do for our awards banquet, and just every little aspect of the job. But that's where you really shine, where I've seen it. And so I appreciate that. I'm gonna miss hearing your voice in the award ceremony. But thank you and best wishes. Okay, there you go.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Jose.
Yes, thank you for Robert for everything you've done and answering all my questions when we go to different events, different trips to either KernCOG or the Valley Voice about who's done what projects, how they got it done, and as a young whippersnapper, I appreciate that. So thank you for everything and for all the work you've done outreaching out in Arvin and everywhere else. I wish you the best of luck. Congratulations, Becky, and welcome, Tammy. Best of luck.
Oh, you're going to get up and speak, Robert?
Just real quick.
Okay.
Everybody, from the board to staff has been so very, very kind. I really appreciate it.
The KEG police, stop that.
Yeah.
You need the mic.
They came out.
Don't necessarily think I want this on the record. But everybody has been so very, very kind. We had a celebration earlier this week. The whole boardroom was decorated. It was really, really nice. 4 of the board members were able to attend. So, I'm going to miss you as well, but I'm just up the road. And quite frankly, I'll probably be back here at least twice a year, I would imagine, with different Valley events. Many of you, if not all of you, have my cell phone. You're welcome to give me a call. And because you have been so very, very nice, I was hoping I could impose upon you one more time. I do have an admittedly generous expense check that I was hoping you would sign before I go. So, but no? Okay, well now I know where the line is drawn. So, after work, if any of you would like to accompany me, I'm going to be going over and having a drink at the Tiki Lounge. You're welcome to join. Love to have your company one more time, and thank you so much.
All right, Robert. Okay. Joe Stramaglia. Joe has a Certificate of Appreciation Project Delivery Team Lead for 25 years of dedicated service to Kern Council of Governments, 92 to 2017. Wow. Thank you, Joe, for sticking around all this time. Thank you. Got one more here. Aaron Hakimi. Is this a surprise? For 5 years of dedicated service to the Kern Council of Governments 2012 to 17. Congratulations for sticking around this long. Thank you. So I guess this meeting's adjourned.
Oh, wait, can we have comments?
More comments?
Just real quick. Real quick. Besides the great staff that we have in KernCOG, and I've got to say, I'd like to have everyone give you all a round of applause, because without each and every one of you, our lives wouldn't be made as easy as they are up here. So please, I like to. And many of you may know that I was, the last meeting, I was not here because I was actually in Belgium attending one of my granddaughter's high school graduation. But I wanted to comment when we were talking about bicycles. The entire country of Belgium is outfitted for the convenient travel throughout their country with bicycle paths, trails, and even something that looked like just a regular highway exchange. I said, oh, that's a new road. They said, but we can't drive on it. I said, but why? Because it's only for bicycles. And a few minutes later, there's a peloton of bicycles coming through, like racing through the countryside. So across every type of bridge, along railroads, their entire country is bicycle, perfect. And like I went to Tongeren and Ghent, and these places won't mean anything right away to many of you, but when I went through each one of those villages to see the historic sites, there's just hundreds of bicycles. There's just opportunities. So if you want to go to that country and you want to take your bike, there are no obstructions anywhere. So I just thought I'd pass that along. So, and I'm glad to be back in the old USA, but because it was hot over there and they don't have air conditioning. So, then thank you.
Are we done? Any other member statements? No? Let's go.